Hello and welcome back to another video with Scarpunk Dad. And by the way, if there's something, looks like there's something sticking out the back of my head, top of my head, I haven't got a fancy hairdo, that's my webcam and my monitor. So in this week's video I'm going to be going over a quick rig rundown of my Kemper live rig and just a few reasons of why and how I use it live. So just before I get into the rig rundown, just a small disclaimer that there is no playing and no sound demos in this video. It is purely just to go over why and how I use the Kemper in a live situation. And yeah, so if you're looking for sound demos, please do not click any further. Well, do, but just don't complain that there's no sound. So recently, my band Millie Manders and the Shut Up released a full-length album. So had it not been for COVID, we'd have been touring in support of that album. But the shows obviously coming up and that we've just played have needed to play the new songs. Now, stupidly, when writing the backing tracks for the album, I used more effects than I normally would because it's being a one guitar band. I felt that it just needed just a little something extra to fill out the sound, which is great until you have to try and replicate it live. So I use my Kemper a lot in the home studio. I use it on every demo recording and on the main recording as well. So I thought, why not give it a try live? So I actually used it on two recent live shows, which were the first shows that I've ever used it on, and it was an absolute success, in all honesty. One of the shows was live streamed, and the sound director front of house was absolutely superb. Sounded just like the album, which is kind of what I was going for. Again, being a single guitar band, the sound needs to punch, it needs to be good. So yeah, let's take a quick look at the setup that I used. It's very in its early stage, it gradually will be upgraded. I won't be using the Kemper solely all the time because we are partners with Black Star Amplification and they make some amazing amps. So I just, moving forward, I need to figure out a way to do all the effects with the traditional amp without spending out huge amounts of money on huge pedal boards and tap dancing. So I've got it set up in this Gator plastic rack case, which is probably a lot lighter than the wooden ones, but it's fully loaded. It's still pretty damn heavy. Not as heavy as a 50 watt or 100 watt tube head, but still some girth to it. So there she is. Do a few bicep curls. So let me just adjust this camera angle so we can get a better view. So this is a 4U rack case, obviously the rack Kemper. This top strip is actually a grill or a vent, however you want to call it, and behind this is an LED strip which is powered directly off the USB in the front of the Kemper, which is really handy. Just saves another plug space on the back. I've also got my LCD screen colour set to purple to match the colour of the LEDs. That's kind of the theme. I use a purple guitar, purple lights in the studio and what have you, so kind of just sticking with the theme. I've got some glow in the dark markings just for on the dark stage, just front and rear for the, just so we know what way round things have got to be. So So this is the powered version of the Kemper. I did use a cab on stage, a 212 cab. I think sound wise I could have easily managed without it, but I wasn't sure and I didn't want to risk it, so I took it just purely for stage volume, and also I think aesthetically it retains the natural amp look, and also helped promote our partner's Black Star amplification because it's a Black Star cab. So yeah, I would probably stick with a cab. It just helps to fill out a bit of stage sound as well for the other guys in the band. If they're not getting the best monitor mix, then at least there's something there. Same for myself, if I'm not getting the best monitor mix, then I can crank the cab a little without doing any damage to the front of house mix, which is always nice. So taking a look around the back. So starting at the top, I've got my in-ear monitor unit, which is just a budget LD Systems MEI 100. So just totally budget, bottom of the range, but it does absolutely fine. You get obviously the antenna there. You get the belt pack, and I just bought some KS10, I think, in-ears, universal ones, perfectly good, from Amazon. They got I think 5 or 10 drivers in each, so they're really high quality but very, very cheap. I think it was £50, which is for in-ears is pretty cheap, and they do great. Again, it depends on the sound engineer because we don't have an in-ear rig, so we are relying on a good monitor signal, good monitor mix, and a good monitor engineer as well, which varies from venue to venue, as I'm sure many of you will know. So what I did is I actually put a patch panel in here. This is a 4-station patch panel. The holes come pre-drilled for D-type connectors. So I bought these Neutrik, however you want to pronounce it, connectors. They're pass-through connectors on the XLRs. So what we can't see on the back, I'll show you some close-ups, but basically there's a short XLR cable. So the IEM in then goes to the back of the IEM unit, ironically. And then on the other side I've got front of house out, which is coming from one of the main outs, the XLR main outs on the back of the Kemper, which again I'll show you some close-ups as soon as I can. And I got a speaker connector there, which I had to solder a small run of speaker cable from the back of this with the jack on the other end to go to the monitor out, or speaker out, sorry, on the Kemper, on the back of the Kemper. And I'll put links to all these in the description below, but this port is actually for the Kemper remote. I use the official remote. I got one second hand, and yeah, despite the high cost, it is well worth it. Yeah, definitely don't scrimp on fake remotes. Go for the real thing, it will make such a difference. I did have a third-party one before and it was just awful. Yeah, I won't name drop who it was, but it did not work very well. So I haven't got space or budget really for a Furman power conditioner at this point. So what I've got is a 4-way power supply, just velcroed into the back bottom. You know, the lighting's not great, so I'll put some close-up shots and pictures in the video. So it's a good quality surge protected 4-way adapter with a nice long plug. It took me ages to actually find a black one, bizarrely, so everything matched. I didn't want a white one there sticking out like a sore thumb. And tucked away in this bottom corner, I can't see if that's showing up on screen or not, but again we'll use some close-ups, is my guitar wireless unit. So I'm using the Audio Technica System 10 stomp box type of wireless unit. So I had concerns, obviously not being a rack wireless, I had concerns whether that being in the rack case would affect the signal in any way, but no, absolutely not. It's flawless. I actually tested it from what you could consider the green room at the venue, so a good 5-6 meters away, through a wall, and it played just fine, absolutely fine. It's an incredible unit for the price. I think they are obsolete, but you can still get them at Anderton's, I believe, at the moment. Really well priced. I'd really recommend them. There's no faffing about trying to find the cleanest channel like on the Line 6 units. It just picks the cleanest channel every time, which is technology you find in the much more high-end Shure units. That's my biggest gripe with the Line 6. I mean, you're paying £500 for a G90 roughly, and you have to pick the wireless channel before each gig. I mean, unless you have a road crew setting up for you, most of us will not have time to do that before every gig. So this one just picks the cleanest channel. It has never dropped out on me once. I've toured all over the country in the UK, played the crummiest venues up to the grandest at Brixton Academy, and it just works every time. Not once has it dropped out. And I've got 2 belt packs, so it just picks between whichever one is on automatically as well. So that's super handy. So it's just plugged into the normal mains adapter with the official Audio-Technica power supply, and it's just velcroed down to the bottom. And I've got a short patch lead, one of the ones that I made for my old pedal board. Excuse the dog walking across the laminate flooring. So it's just a short patch lead which goes into the alternative input on the back of the Kemper. There's something you must remember, and got me for quite a while, is you have to set on the Kemper which input it's taking its signal from. So I couldn't get any signal at first when I was testing it. Thank goodness I tested it before the gig, but you have to go into the input section of the settings, just hold down the input button above the noise gate knob and select alternative input, and then it will see the signal back there. So it's just a tiny little patch cable straight into the alternative input. So on the back of the remote socket, and as well why I've used it, is probably the only design flaw in the Kemper, and other than this it's just a work of art essentially. But again, I'll put some close-ups in, but the network port on the back of the Kemper is just a standard Ethernet, however you say it in your neck of the woods, just a standard network port, not the Ethercon locking port. Now that's a big design flaw, something that say Line 6 managed to get right on their rack units. So that was a big mistake. So I've heard of lots of people having that port break. Obviously you don't want a remote cable breaking halfway through a set, because that is curtains pretty much, unless you have a spare of course. But so yeah, so I've got an Ethercon port on the panel, on the patch panel, and just a very short right angled Cat 5 network cable, like the shortest I could buy, just so there's no signal loss, and it goes into the back of the rack unit there. So I'm always going to be plugging into this proper lock-in port. So if anything's going to break, it's going to be this £4 adapter rather than the back of a Kemper unit, which I've then got to send to Germany to be repaired. Although they offer an excellent service, you've still got to pay 20-30 quid to get it out there. So not the best. If it can be avoided, that's great. So that solves that problem. So as mentioned, I'm actually using the Kemper remote in the live application, and I'm using performance mode, and the way I'm using it is I'm setting up a performance for each song, and then the various slots in the performance are my various sounds for the song. So I'm not using it in a traditional stomp box method. I'm using actually patched sounds for the song. So it'll go through a stage of, say, intro, verse, chorus, however the song dictates that, and that worked really well. Say, I went in blind, I did it the first time, no real rehearsal with it, and it worked perfectly. The only thing, which is down to me, not my setup, is I'm a bit clumsy, and there was a couple of points where I rigged up and down rather than changing slot. But you can kind of recover if you're quick enough. You can cancel the rig up or what have you, or just make do with the sound that you've accidentally picked. So that's just down to me rather than the setup really. But so yeah, that worked really well. So I went direct to front of house. The sound guy was a bit baffled by that at first. I think that will happen less and less. Obviously this technology has been about for a while now. Cabs are gradually becoming a thing of the past in some cases. Some people still like the feel of a real amp no matter what. I can honestly say, I mean, I've always been a tube amp man, and I can honestly say that live this felt absolutely no different whatsoever. I think if you say it feels different live, I think you've got to be nitpicking or maybe a little bit biased. I was anti-digital for so long. I had poor success with Boss Katanas and things like that. Yeah, this feels absolutely spot on live. You cannot tell the difference whatsoever. No matter what anyone says, I'm afraid. You just can't tell the difference. And the front of house gets, and the audience gets, fantastic audio with one XLR cable. So it's win-win really. I suppose my biggest gripe with using the Kemper live is then it's not in the studio. It leaves a wonderful gaping 3U hole in my desk, which is super annoying. And then I've got to try and get all the wires back in when I want to put it back and unscrew all this, and it's just an absolute pain. If I was a wealthier man, I'd just buy two. One for live, one for studio, but I'm a musician, so of course I'm not wealthy. So yeah, that's my only gripe really, and that's if that is the biggest problem, then I think we're doing alright. So anyway, that's just a quick ramble on about the Kemper rig. I can't say enough good things about it. For a plug-in, direct to front of house solution, there's just nothing better in my opinion so far that I've tried. It's great, there's absolutely no feedback on stage. It's just one cable direct in, pure studio sound to the audience's ears. I mean, what more could you ask for really? No difference in feel to a tube amp whatsoever. I can honestly say that. I'm not sponsored by Kemper. I'm not getting anything for saying that to you. Genuinely, no difference live in terms of feel, and no tubes to replace. Nothing to go wrong. No different sound each night because the venue has dirty power or the tube is on the way out or anything like that. Just plug in and sound like you every single time. Yeah, so that's it. Just a quick review and rig rundown. And it's bound to evolve as time goes on. If I combine it with a real amp, it's gonna probably go into a wheeled rack case and just be a permanent install in there. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. If you've got any experiences, good or bad, with using the Kemper live, or if you've got any questions about how I got on with it, yeah, hook us up in the comments, and see you next time.